Hello everyone, my name is Jeff and I'm a content producer. Today we're going to talk with Amber Alfaro, who is the computer and technology teacher and general manager of esports at Southwest Miami Senior High School. Today we're going to be talking about her esports club, namely how she got involved, what she's teaching, and her students' experiences so far. So to begin with, can you tell me about your role at Southwest Miami Senior High School?
I've been teaching at Southwest for this is my 14th school year, and I started off as an English teacher, and recently I moved over to the business department where I teach technology and gaming, and I got involved basically out of luck. I was selected to pilot this program, and it's been a huge learning curve, but we've had a lot of fun, and we've accomplished some great things this year.
Awesome. So how did you get involved into the video game and esports side of this?
Well, I mean, for a long time, I was just a spectator, which is part of esports, but I played recreationally just for fun,
Mm-hmm.
nothing, the classics, Super Mario and all that stuff. And basically, I got involved this year when Lila Bowman came to us and said if we were interested in piloting this program. Of course, we jumped at the idea, and I've been slowly but surely just educating myself on the other side of esports, not just the gamer side, but the behind the
Mm-hmm.
scenes aspect of it.
Awesome. And so the big question is always like, what does scholastic esports mean to you?
Well, that's the question I'm asked by the parents, so
Mm-hmm.
I do have some experience in answering that one. The scholastic esports, what it means is, yes, the students are playing. That is a big component, but it's not the only component. Students are also learning about marketing. They're learning about brands and branding, like our club, for example. They're learning event organization. We have this year we did a fundraiser at the school,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all student run, student organized. They got all the stuff approved. They did the brackets. They just did crowd control. I was just basically the adult in the room, and I provided guidance, but they did the poster, the fundraiser
Mm-hmm.
poster to hang around the school. They collected the money, they deposited the money to our treasurer. I mean, they just had a ton of experience. And so, what I tell the parents that esports provides for their kid a sense of community
Mm-hmm.
that maybe they don't get in band, because band, you need some kind of talent or some kind of inclination for it.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not athletic, so that kind of limits their possibilities, and maybe they're not necessarily even an academic uh interest. They don't have an academic interest, for example, like an English honor society or anything like that. So esports provides this just community for them where they feel like they belong. They already are playing it, so why not attach it to the academics part of it?
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's definitely a great way to look at it. And then, so I want to break down what you do as the general manager of esports because I know in my time of talking with general managers, they do a lot of different things. So, can
Oh
we start with
yes.
what you do on the scholastic side?
Okay, so on the scholastic side, we've learned about the history of gaming. Um, we have learned how games have evolved.
Mm-hmm.
We've learned about how they kind of burst into the scene as a competitive sport. We have learned about all the, I guess, the branches of esports that they can be a part of. That's not necessarily gamers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've explored careers in that. We've explored like the not even the gaming side, but the programming side of it in my
Okay.
gaming class. So scholastically, that's what esport is at our school.
Awesome. And then, so what do you do on the esports side of it all?
Okay, well, a lot of coordination. I am pretty much gathering a lot of information and disseminating it back to our students. Since we are, I'm going to say it, pioneers in Dade County Public Schools, we're the first ones to do this. So there's not a whole lot of answers out there that or people that can even help us. So my job is basically to get my students the answers that they want. Like, can we play this kind of game? Can we do this? Can we compete off campus? Can we do so? So that's part of it. Field trip forms, a lot of forms, a lot of forms. Um, you know, guiding them,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that they're representing our club well, making sure that we are enforcing the code of conduct. We are just yeah, a lot of, and then of course, since we are considered a club, or really a sport, we're like in this hybrid
Mm-hmm.
space. I had to check GPAs. I have to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
they're doing the academic requirements to be able to graduate. So
Okay, awesome. It's certainly a lot of stuff for one person to do.
yes, it is.
Now, you mentioned to me earlier that it's also been a huge blessing for you that you have this program. Can you expand on why that is?
Well, our school suffered from a lot of budget cuts, a lot of teacher retirements,
Mm-hmm.
also caused the closing of programs because of these budget cuts, and these programs just weren't continued. So our school was suffering from a lack of electives, and esports has provided actually just another thing that they can get involved in, so we can start attracting students to our school once again.
Awesome. That's a really great way to use esports.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it sells itself, really.
Now, have you found your students are more engaged with school after entering into an esports program?
Some of them maintained, meaning, they did their requirements, they did what they had to do. Others definitely stepped it up a little bit more, just so that they or can be able to participate and stay with us. So yeah, I've definitely seen that aspect of it, where they have stepped it up um, academically, in order to be able to to continue participating in our events.
Awesome. And are you seeing like a broader range of students being involved because of this program?
Um, I feel like it's almost the same kind of kid.
Mm-hmm.
The quiet, but they're still social, and they know a lot, but they tend to be a little introverted. But esports welcomes everybody. At our Smash Bros tournament that we held on Valentine's Day earlier this year, we had, I mean, the crowd, we had basketball players there, we had football players there, but we also had our band members. We had freshmen, we had seniors.
Mm-hmm.
Some had brought even their siblings who had graduated, and I mean, it was really cool to see this community together. And seniors were playing with freshmen, and they were talking about it, and they were just engaged all around. And it was just a really, really cool experience. So
Awesome. And then you mentioned a little bit earlier that there's a lot of roles that your students are taking part of that aren't playing the games. Can you talk about
right.
some of those roles that the students are engaging or
Okay,
embracing, I should
so
say?
so we have our graphic designer, who is our president. He has done our logo. He designed the fundraiser poster. We have our treasurer, who is in charge of making our daily deposit. We sell snacks as a fundraiser daily, and so he's in charge of doing the deposits and running the store. We work on merchandising, and we have a little cart, so they are able to restock. So there's a lot of job skills that are even involved in this. We have a little mini, it's not a cash register, it's a cash box, but they practice these kind of social skills that can get them, their first job at Publix eventually. And they may not have gotten that opportunity had they done something else, for example. So like I said, event coordinators, we have team tournament organizers, TOs, who kind of manage the players that are our contestants, for example, in any fundraiser or tournaments that we do. We have a video editor who
Mm-hmm.
has done our promotional stuff. So again, just different walks of life, different likes, and again, not everyone is a gamer.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a great way to kind of transition. Is like, what have you found that your students have been learning through this esports program? Because I mean, there's so much you just described there. Like, what are some of the big things you think they've been taught?
I think the biggest thing is how to be professional, how to conduct themselves in a professional manner. I think that they have learned real life skills that are transferable to other jobs, you know. I think that they appreciate that responsibility. You know, it gives them a sense of ownership, like this is my club and we're
Hmm.
founding members, and we, you know, we have contributed to this, and they, you know, they take a pride in that. So I would say those things.
Okay, awesome. And what would you say you've learned through this program? Because you said you've learned a lot.
Oh, yes. Well, again, I've learned that shoutcasting was a thing. That I need to definitely look into that for next year, to add that to our program. I've learned that, again, things like graphic design and branding and just advertising, and so many of these things are important to this club. Um, I've learned, you know, about traveling out of county, and I had to send a student to California. He won third place in our regionals for the NHL tournament.
Hmm.
And then he was flown out to California, where he won third place in the country, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, he won us $2,000 in scholarship for him, and then we also got grants because of his performance. So I've learned that just opportunities. I have a 5-year-old outside right now who is playing Smash Bros, and you know, his coordination is so different, and he knows the backstories to so many characters. He's 5, you
Hmm.
know. So I learned that there's a lot of creativity involved in esports. I learned that there's a role for everyone in esports. I learned that that maintaining decorum and etiquette is just as important in esports. So, I mean, you know, I've learned about League of Legends. I've learned what a big game it is.
Yeah.
It's huge. So, so yeah, I've learned
Awesome.
a lot.
Sounds like parents could have a huge opportunity to learn a lot too if you've done this much with yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we had an academy night earlier this year in November, and this had just launched. So at the time I didn't have as much
Hmm.
information as I do now, obviously. But one of the things I kept stressing is that this is that that missing link for their student if they didn't want to try out for a basketball team, if they weren't necessarily academically inclined, if you know, they just weren't showing any interest artistically or otherwise, that there is an opportunity for scholarships to be obtained through esports, through the very thing that parents try to take away, which is, you know, I had earlier this year, I had one of my League of Legends players was grounded. So so he asked me, "Can you email my dad?" And I'm like, "I don't know if I can I do that?" So so that was, you know, that was like one of the things that I kept stressing to the parents, is just like, this is where they feel they belong.
Hmm.
And if they're good, they want to showcase that to their friends, you know? So, and not to mention, like, the money is there, and companies are putting money towards these programs and for these students to continue this. So why not? You know,
Hmm.
just embrace it. Why not?
No, I think you just touched on a lot of it, but like, why do you think it's so important to include things like video games and esports in high school as an activity that students can sign up for and participate in?
Well, because for a long time, again, video games were only seen as like the entertainment. They're going to melt your brain. They're not showing anything. But so much research has come out that shows otherwise, that the coordination and, like,
Hmm.
you know, hand to eye coordination and other things are are enhanced by playing video games. And there's a different kind of the theory of multiple intelligences. There's a certain kind of intelligence that goes into playing video games. It's not just like this brain melting thing, there's storyline. So in Assassin's Creed, for example, you have like history and historical events, a little skewed, but it's there, and kids will recognize those names because they played Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. So that's a big question for parents all the time. They don't see that value yet, and I do emphasize the word yet, because I know eventually they will come around.
Yeah, I know when I first started playing God of War and it's all around the Roman gods, like it was kind of just a background information, but like as I grew up a bit more, I came back and I was like, oh, I remember all these names. I have a good idea of what they are, some of their personality, because it had been in a video game.
And then you went and you aced all your 10th grade literature. Well, again, but that's part of it, it's not just the graphics, it's not just that. There's storyline, there's lore, there's all these things that go into it, and to retain that much information, again, my 5-year-old is retaining all these names and what they do and combos, and I'm just there like, oh, that's cool. That's wonderful. I don't know this much, and I do this every day, but it's incredible, like the kinds of things that they can do. And just to see the excitement, like parents just need to see and attend an event where it's competitive and people are yelling and they're excited, just as they would at a basketball team or, at a football game. So they just need to see it.
Awesome. Now, you talked about one of your students before, but I understand you've had a lot more success in esports this year with your students. Can you highlight a few of them for me?
Okay, well, this is my proud mama moment. So I mentioned my president. He won the Beyond the Game challenge for NASEF for fan art. So he won $500 scholarship for that. Then my one of my 9th graders, he's the one that won 3rd place regionally for NHL 20. And then he went off, all expenses paid, to California, where he won 3rd place. He's a 9th grader and he has $2,000 in his, in his possession for college eventually. So he's in 9th grade.
It's a good start.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have one of my 10th graders who's our video editor. He got 2nd place at the first ever Esports Awards for one of the challenges that we have down here. Back in December. And what else? Well, our League of Legends Florida team won 3rd place in the state. So those are pretty big accomplishments.
I would say so.
So I'm very, very proud of the boys. They were amazing. They really worked for it. They were strategic. You can tell that they were thinking about things in a more organized way and not just like playing for fun. They were being strategic. They were watching the other teams playing and they were researching. And again, this is just tapping into those job skills that, it's not the same researching because you want to know this information versus like researching because you have a term paper due next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like the research just comes that much easier when you're interested in the subject. So, and the skills are there. So, it's, it was, I was very proud. I was very proud of all their accomplishments this year.
Awesome. No, it's definitely something to be proud of. Now, with the scholarships, we're seeing more and more esports scholarships throughout all of at the high school level. Do you think this is making college more accessible for students who may not have had that opportunity before?
I think accessible in the sense that
like being able to fund themselves going to school.
Well, obviously, yes, like any scholarship that's available to students in any way will make it more accessible. I think though, it's giving them that extra like oomph of why would I even go to college? I mean, they have a lot of options. So, and most students just go to college because it's expected of them,
Hmm.
but they don't really have that spark of like, this is what I want to teach. Not necessarily at 18 years old, but to be told that you're getting a scholarship to specifically play the very thing you've been investing hours and hours and hours on. That's just icing on the cake, in my opinion. so
Awesome.
so yeah.
And then a couple last things.
Mhm.
What advice would you give to students or teachers who are looking to start a program like yours?
Okay, well, to teachers, for sure, start small because, students are going to want to take it over and and it has potential to be chaotic. You have to set the boundaries, you have to set the limits. So for teachers, definitely look into the NASEF like toolkits because they were a huge help. No need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of the stuff is editable, so you can just tailor it to you.
Hmm.
um, Make sure that you have administrative support. It's very important to have that relationship and for your administration to know what you're doing. um, Talk to the parents and make sure that yes, you are holding practice at school specifically to play video games. But that's just it. I mean, basketball has practice 3 times a week, 4 times a
Hmm.
week. So esports needs to have the same. And for the students, I would say, you go out there, you have fun, but you also have to think of it like you have to behave accordingly. It's not the same playing basketball in the street with your friends in the park. Those rules are very different.
Hmm.
But when you put on a jersey that represents your school, you have to behave with decorum. You have to follow those rules. So, they just need to be guided in that way.
Awesome. And then what would you say has been the most rewarding part of this experience for you?
Um, just that my kids are being recognized, that my students love coming to the room and just feeling like they're at home there,
Hmm.
and to see my ninth graders and my 10th graders have plans for the future for our team. That's very cool because they want to work towards these things. They want to have these things. We have a room that we want to turn into our game room, and they come with blueprints and they come with, I think this would be cool. And I think this would be, what about this? How can we get it there? So my job is to show them that pathway of like, this is your dream,
Hmm.
but this is where we are, and this is the roadmap to get there. So it's not just, we can't just have a game room the way you want it yet, but it does. I just, again, it just makes them that much more proud when their stuff comes to fruition because they've seen it from the ground up. So that's my big moment. My proudest, I guess, just to see them growing up and being expectant of things for the future. They're thinking ahead, which is like, what ninth grader even does that,
I certainly didn't.
So,
Yeah, my biggest
so
worry
those
was
are
probably like English.
so there you go.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have for you. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. It's been educational for me and hopefully for everyone else watching. Uh,
Thank you so much.
yeah, and then for all of you out there, stay tuned. We've got more interviews with Florida teachers about their esports programs. Until then, stay safe. Thanks, guys.